Picture this. It's 2039. The world as we know, it shatters in a single moment. The familiar peace of North America is ripped apart by the deafening roar of sirens from NORAD. A multi-pronged invasion erupts right on the superpower's doorstep. In a shocking turn of events, Canada and Mexico have launched a perfectly coordinated strike aimed at blinding America's defenses. What happens when your closest neighbors suddenly become your most dangerous enemies? Before we dive deep into this unbelievable scenario, make sure you're subscribed to the channel. The year is 2039. North America is engulfed in a conflict that was once thought impossible. We're not here to talk politics. We're here to ask the ultimate question. What would actually happen if Canada and Mexico attacked the United States at the same time? We all know the U.S. is a military giant. But instead of a drawn-out war, its neighbors have opted for a lightning-fast, shock-and-awe strategy designed to completely throw Washington off balance. Using advanced algorithms, autonomous drones, and precision strikes on critical infrastructure, we've developed 3 incredibly realistic scenarios that we're about to break down for you. To truly understand the potential devastation, we need to look at the balance of power in 2039. Technology has completely rewritten the rules of the battlefield. The United States is still an absolute Goliath, with over 1 million active-duty soldiers and hundreds of 5th-generation fighter jets. But it's their 6th-generation NGAD fleet that changes the game. These aren't just planes. They're flying command centers, orchestrating massive swarms of combat drones. Facing them from the north is Canada, a force that prioritizes quality over sheer numbers. They boast elite Arctic brigades and a modern fleet of F-35s. But Canada's true advantage lies in its cutting-edge autonomous drone swarms. These drones can make independent decisions on the battlefield without any satellite connection, making them completely immune to jamming. Meanwhile, to the south, Mexico unleashes what can only be described as a massive drone storm. Tens of thousands of cheap, expendable devices are launched with one goal: to overwhelm and paralyze you as air defense radars, creating chaos and opening a path for the main assault. The stage is set for a war unlike any other. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to follow for more. What if America's closest allies turned on it? It's a terrifying thought, but let us explore how a coordinated attack from Canada and Mexico could bring the United States to its knees in just 48 hours. This is a work of fiction, a strategic thought experiment. The first strike hits America's geographic weak spot, Alaska. It's massive, remote, and defended by a skeleton crew. Canada launches AI drone swarms from Arctic submarines, flying just inches above the snow to stay hidden from radar. Their target? The Trans-Alaska Pipeline and NORAD's early warning stations. The sensors go dark. Alaska is blind. Then, elite Canadian Arctic brigades seize Delta Junction, cutting the only highway supply route. Within hours, the headlines are stark. Alaska cut off. The North is isolated from Washington. Simultaneously, Canada attacks the economic heartland. Sabotage teams hit the Detroit-Windsor Bridge, a critical trade artery. At the same time, malware cripples the Niagara power grid. This isn't just a blackout. It freezes ATM systems and digital payments in Chicago and New York. Panic buying starts immediately. The streets descend into chaos. The supply chain for cars and microchips in Michigan grinds to a halt. The American economy suffers a massive heart attack. Canada is using America's own interconnectedness against it, strangling the giant from within. While the North is paralyzed, a southern border erupts. Mexico unleashes millions of low-altitude drones, swarming from California to Texas. Their main target is the Laredo land port, the lifeblood for nearly half of America's overland trade. These drones create epic traffic jams on major interstates, and social media explodes with videos of drone clouds over Arizona and Texas. Under this cover of chaos, Mexican special forces infiltrate deep. They strike strategic fuel depots in Texas, cutting off military supplies at the source. The border becomes a chaotic gray zone, forcing Washington to stretch its already thin resources to the breaking point. This fictional scenario highlights just how vulnerable modern nations can be. The biggest threats might not come from distant adversaries, but from unexpected places, exploiting the very systems we depend on. It's a chilling reminder that in a hyper-connected world, strategic weakness can be found where you least expect it. What do you think is America's biggest vulnerability? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching, and if you found this interesting, be sure to subscribe for more strategic deep dives. 24 hours. That's all it took for the shock to wear off in Washington. Then, the most powerful automated war machine on the planet roared to life. Across the northern and southern fronts, swarms of NGAD 6th-generation fighters materialized, their laser weapons turning the skies into a fiery graveyard for Mexican drone swarms. In mere seconds, the tide began to turn. Deep within fortified bunkers, U.S. Cyber Command went on the offensive. They seized control of enemy satellites, plunging the invading forces into a digital darkness. Suddenly, the aggressors were blind and deaf on a battlefield they had so brazenly entered. Simultaneously, the colossal engine of American industry began to shift its gears from peacetime production to wartime replenishment. Losses were replaced with terrifying speed as new tanks, jets, and munitions rolled off assembly lines. The initial chaos that had gripped the nation transformed into a systematic lethal counteroffensive. The once stalled U.S. air and naval forces reasserted their dominance, flipping the momentum of the entire conflict. In Alaska, a fleet of long-range transport jets descended from the Arctic sky, dropping entire armored brigades onto the frozen landscape. They moved swiftly to reclaim vital highways, cutting off the Canadian units, who were now mired in snow, out of fuel, and completely isolated. Their collapse was swift and total. Down south, the scene was just as decisive. American armored divisions, a steel tsunami, crashed against the Mexican lines, not just pushing them back, but driving them far beyond the border. Washington wasn't content with simply repelling the invasion. U.S. forces advanced 50 kilometers deep into Mexican territory, establishing military buffer zones and systematically annihilating the drone launch sites that had caused so much initial damage. At sea, the U.S. Navy's power was absolute. Carrier strike groups and silent-running submarines enforced a crippling blockade on every port. Nothing got in, nothing got out. The invaders, once so confident, were now isolated, outgunned, and left with no choice but to surrender. The entire war, from surprise attack to unconditional surrender, was over in less than a week. But the victory was a bitter one. The scars from this conflict would prove to be permanent. The map of North America was redrawn, not with new borders, but with U.S. military districts established deep inside its neighbors' territories. The global economy reeled from the shock, with damages soaring into the trillions. More importantly, the trust that had bound the continent together for generations was shattered, perhaps forever. America had won the war, but the cost was a future shadowed by decades of instability and resentment. This brings us to a difficult question. After such a profound betrayal, should the United States annex these border territories to guarantee its permanent security? Or would that only sow the seeds for the next conflict? Let me know what you think in the comments below. Thanks for watching.